Good morning. Welcome, everybody. My name is Tess Harris. I'm the Staff Hearing Officer for today's meeting. Today is September 17th, 2025. We'll start out with public comment. If there are any members of the public that wish to speak on items that are not on the agenda, anybody in the room? I'm not seeing anybody. Anybody on Zoom, Ms. Go?
Okay. On checking Zoom, I do not see any raised hands for this general comment. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we'll then go into preliminary matters, requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or addition of agenda items. I don't have any requests at this time, so we'll move to item 1B, announcements and appeals. We do have two coastal development permit announcements, and so we do have the planners for those. I'm going to go ahead and read each of the items into the record, and then I will make my decision. The staff hearing officer's decision for ADU coastal development permits is a final action of the city and cannot be appealed. So I do want to make sure that that is understood by everybody in the room and watching. So we will go ahead with the first announcement for 1391 Santa Rita Circle. And I will go ahead and read the item into the record. Pursuant to Santa Barbara Municipal Code, when a proposed development involves the addition of an accessory dwelling unit to an existing single-family residence, the application shall be reviewed by the staff hearing officer without a public hearing. And then we will issue a decision on the application at least 10 days after the notice has been provided to the public. So this is the announcement decision on the coastal development permit to allow an accessory dwelling unit at 1391 Santa Rita Circle in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone, Santa Barbara Municipal Code 28.4460. The project consists of a proposal to convert an existing 372 square foot attached garage into a single-story ADU on a 7,000 square foot lot. The parcel is developed with a 1,715 square foot single-story, single-unit residence with a detached two-car garage. Oops, give me one moment. The project is exempt from environmental review under Section 15303 of the California Environmental Quality Act, which is for new construction or conversion of existing structures. And then no project-specific or cumulative environmental impacts are expected as a result of the project. So I have a couple comments for this particular project, and we do have the staff, Ms. Fennessy, here today. So thank you, Ms. Fennessy, for being here, as well as the applicant, Mr. Swan. I did visit the project site earlier this week, and I spoke with the property owner. And I wanted to really address primarily the public comment that came in from some of the neighbors that had some questions and concerns about ADUs being built in general and in the area. And I'm going to address one specific comment. The members of the public that sent this comment in talked about how it's a close-knit community home to many and elderly individuals who choose to live here for its peaceful environment and feel like the ADU would increase density, exacerbate parking. And I want to address this one specifically because I really hope that these members of the public have communicated with the property owner that is here today for this ADU. The property owner is an individual that is aging and is has her family moving in so that they can assist her as she ages and due to health issues, as well as she takes care of a family member that has some disabilities and wants to keep her family living in the same home and herself in the same home. So I have certainly an incredible amount of empathy for the family, and I think it's a really great opportunity to allow the property owner to continue to live in her home and have her family help take care of her and her sister. And so I do want to, just make sure that the public members that are known as San Rafael Avenue and Santa Rita Circle, my hope is that you have a conversation with your property owner and get to know who that person is, because they're also an elderly individual who chose to live in that environment and would like to stay in that environment. And I certainly hope that as a community, we can understand that that is something that we should be really accepting of and supporting. In addition, I will just say that an ADU, in a single-family zone is something that has been allowed by state law, and properties all along the area are allowed to have accessory dwelling units. This project does not increase the actual footprint of the site. So they are using their existing garage. They already have windows in the garage that are being replaced, but it is very conducive to a living environment. It's a 372 square foot ADU. It's going to be a studio unit. Really does not show any sort of a change in terms of exacerbating the development on the site. So I see no issue with the sort of physical development, as well as the family members that are, going to be moving around are already in the tighter space of the home, and so allowing them to have a little bit more space and allow the owner of the property to have her own area while also aging in her own property, I think is completely acceptable. Let's see. I had one question for staff to clarify the square footage. So in the project's description, I think in the beginning, I had noticed it had stated 1,710 square feet in the staff report. And I think that the square footage is 1,227 square feet for the house. And then when you add the ADU and accessory buildings, it becomes the 1,710. So just wanted to make sure that was accurate. Perfect.
I can double check. I don't have it in front of me right now, but what it sounds like, yeah, that was my mistake.
Perfect. No problem, Ms. Fennessy. I think just if I will take a look as we prepare the minutes and connect with you and make sure that we have the project description accurate, just so there are no issues as they go into the building permit side of things. But that's great. And then the other question I had as I was reading the staff report that I will work with Ms. Fennessy on after is around the stormwater piece. It looked like it was a tier 2 stormwater requirement, so just wanted to confirm whether it's tier 1 or tier 2. So we will go ahead and confirm that and then just make sure it's correct on the project. I did want to make sure that the applicant is aware of the standard conditions of approval that are on the project, and just sort of let you have the opportunity if you have any questions or concerns about those. Okay, great. Well, with that, I'm going to close this announcement and indicate my approval for the project. Again, my approval is not appealable. And the staff hearing officer's decision is final on this announcement for 1391 Santa Rita Circle. I wish the property owner the best, and thank you for being here today. Yeah, thank you. Okay. We are just going to take a minute or two as we switch out for the next announcement, which will be for 125 West Yananali Street. Okay, and then one announcement that I meant to mention earlier, we are having some technical difficulties in the room, so we are using the one of the hearing monitors that should be visible via Zoom, but just if there are any delays, that is why we are moving over. So we will now go into 125 West Yananali Street. Again, this is an announcement of the staff hearing officer decision on a coastal development permit. This is to allow 2 special accessory dwelling units at 125 West Yananali. The project consists of a proposal to convert the majority of a detached accessory building consisting of a storage room, bathroom, laundry room, and carport into 2 new special accessory dwelling units. The proposal includes 8 new long-term bike parking spaces and a new trash enclosure. And the project is associated with an existing 6-unit, 2-story apartment building. The project is exempt from further environmental review under Section 15303, which is the new construction or conversion of small structures facilities of CEQA. And no specific project-specific or cumulative environmental impacts are expected as a result of the project. So we will go ahead. I have a couple comments for this and a couple questions for staff. Thank you, Ms. Burkhart, for being here, and thank you to the applicant also for being here. You know, this area, I'm very familiar with this area. I visited the site and, you know, recognize that it is a pretty dense neighborhood with a lot of, and the zoning district is hotel, motel, multiple family residence. And then the coastal land use plan designation is the hotel medium high density residential. So an understanding that there are, you know, high density and residential in the general vicinity and certainly right in the adjacent neighborhood. This decision is really focused around the 2 special ADUs and is not focused around the trash enclosure or bike parking, although those are part of the project, not part of my decision. It's a 220 square foot ADU and a 276 square foot ADU. And I wanted to highlight the parking section that was in the staff report. Ms. Burkhart, first, thank you for really walking through that in the staff report and clarifying some of the issues there. So no auto parking is required for the proposed ADUs. The project site is also within AB 2097 and is within, it's very close to the Amtrak train station. It's 0.2 miles away. And so it meets the requirement for AB 2097, which is a state law that does not require parking for properties that are within a half mile of generally a bus or train station or significant transportation area. So because of that half mile within public transit, the project, both as an existing site and as a proposed site, does not require parking to be on the site. But I raise this because we did get a public comment from one of the tenants in the existing property and indicating that the lease that they have does allow them to have a parking space. And so I wanted to understand how the property owner, even though it's not necessarily specific to this ADU, it is important, I think, that we get clarity on how the property owner plans to address that concern, especially as the parking is being removed. So if either Ms. Burkhart or the applicant could respond to that, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. I can respond to that. I did reach out to the applicant on this topic yesterday, and they in turn reached out to the property owner who is working with those tenants to pay for on-street parking permits to replace the on-site parking that they currently have, and then we'll be amending the leases to reflect that. So that's what he has committed to do in this, to resolve this issue.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Burkhart. And I just wanted to, is there anything that either you as staff or the applicant would like to, anything else that to highlight or raise for the project before I make a decision?
Sure, thank you. The only other thing I would point out is that the applicant is adding 8 long-term, meaning covered and secured bicycle parking spaces to help offset the loss of automobile parking, and that is to help us with the coastal policy that we also need to make for this project. So that was staff's recommendation as a sort of an alternative to the automobile parking that we can't require them to provide. And they were willing to do that and have provided that on site. So I just want to make that clear as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Burkhart. That is very helpful. So I am going to go ahead and make the announcement for this project. I will be approving the project at 125 West Yananali Street for 2 special ADUs. I wish the applicant and the property owner the best as you move forward into the building permit process. Thanks for being here. And just as a reminder, my decision for that item for 125 West Yananali Street is not appealable. The decision is final. Okay, so we will move right ahead into item number 2 on the agenda, which is for 2310 Chapala Street. And I'll go ahead and read the item into the record before passing it over to staff. The 17,012 square foot lot is developed with a 1-story, 2,456 square foot non-residential structure, which used to be a church, and associated parking lot. The project consists of converting the church to a single-unit residence with a 37 square foot addition, resulting in a 2,493 square foot residence. A detached 609 square foot garage with a 194 square foot workshop and 800 square foot ADU above are also proposed. The proposed total square footage is 75% of the maximum allowed floor area ratio without the ADU and 94% with the ADU. The church parking lot would be demolished and replaced with hydromulch. Associated hardscape and landscape improvements are proposed, including the removal of one 14-inch liquid amber street tree. Property line wood fences and gates are proposed of varying heights in addition to a retaining wall with a fence on top and privacy fronts around the ADU. The discretionary application required at this hearing under the purview of the staff hearing officer is an accessory building floor area modification to exceed the allowable square footage in a single detached accessory building. And the project is categorically exempt from further environmental review, again pursuant to CEQA section 15303, the new construction or conversion of small structures. And so with that, I will pass it off to Ms. Ernest to provide a brief staff presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. In one moment while we pull up the plans. Good morning. My name is Carly Ernest. I'm the case planner and will be presenting the project at 2310 Chapala Street in the request for an accessory building floor area modification. The project site is located at 2310 Chapala Street in the Oak Park neighborhood. It is a corner lot off of West Pueblo Street and Chapala Street. It is zoned RS 7.5 and currently developed with a non-residential building that is a church and the associated parking lot for the church with 17 spaces. And here are some photos of the existing site and neighborhood. Not sure if I can zoom in here. Okay, well, this photo here is if you're looking from Pueblo Street, so that's a view of the parking lot and then the church building. This view here is of the lot from the corner of Chapala and West Pueblo Street, and then this is a view of the church from Chapala Street, and then some other photos of the adjacent homes. The neighborhood is largely zoned RS 7.5, which is a single unit zone and developed with single unit residences. And the project proposes converting the existing church building to a single-unit residence and a detached garage and workshop with an ADU above. The other site work includes landscape and hardscape improvements, some site walls and fencing, and removal of one street tree. And the applicant obtained approval from the Street Tree Advisory Committee for that removal. And the existing church parking lot would be demolished and replaced with hydro mulch. The original project did include a lot split, but the project has since been revised to omit the lot split from this current application, and the parking lot will be demolished and replaced with hydro mulch. And the request under the staff hearing officer's purview today is the request for an accessory building floor area modification for this building. And the modification is requested for the accessory buildings to exceed the allowable square footage in a single detached accessory building. And let me scroll to the floor plans and elevations of that building. So the garage is proposed to be 609 square feet. In the workshop is 194 square feet, and that is on the lower level. And there's exterior stairs leading up to the 800 square foot 2-bedroom ADU. And this exceeds the allowance for 1,250 square feet of in a single detached accessory building, and combined the garage, workshop, and ADU are 1,603 square feet. So this exceeds this allowance. And typically an ADU that's constructed over a new or existing covered parking structure is not included in the calculation of maximum floor area in any single detached accessory structure. But because the ADU is not solely constructed over a standard detached garage and a workshop is proposed, and there's other floor area development on the lot, the ADU counts towards that accessory building floor area allowed in a single detached accessory building. So that is the reason for the zoning modification, to exceed that allowance. And here are the elevations. So this is the view from Chapala Street. There would be a new curb cut entering this 2-car garage, and then the exterior stairs would lead up to the 2-bedroom ADU. So this would be the view looking from Pueblo Street across the parking lot. And staff is supportive of the modification because the garage, workshop, and ADU are appropriate improvements on the lot, and they are appropriately sized to accommodate the ADU above, and the single-family design board agreed with this rationale. And by proposing these in a single detached accessory building rather than multiple or attached to the single unit residence, this helps with the adaptive reuse of that existing church building into a single unit residence. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Ernest. I wanted to pass it off to the applicant. If you have any additional comments that you'd like to provide, you are more than welcome to.
Good morning, Heidi Jones, agent for the owner. Thank you, Ms. Ernest, for your thorough staff report and presentation. We're happy to be here today. We've been in this process since 2023 and gone through, slight fluctuations over time to result in the project that we're looking at today. I did want to mention that I have historically and recently communicated with the neighbors, Bill and Suzanne, and kept them in communication about the overall project and our schedule, and just provided some clarifications about the workshop use is really intended as like a maker space, or just having, a lot of people don't get to use their garage for things that they do in it. And it helps accommodate, a nice ADU above it at a good size. So I reached out to them and just provided them some additional information about why the FAR changed, because the lot split has been omitted at this point in time. And haven't heard back from them, but happy to keep communications open with the neighbors, and we've been doing that. I think that was it for me, and then we'll have questions, and if we want to do any kind of presentation, we're available.
And Anthony Grumbine with Harrison Design, as well as Ching with Harrison Design, the architects. Chingshu. So I guess the only other few little adds in terms of the commentary was because the only reason, obviously, that this is before you is because it's larger than normal sizes, and the discussion on that, I maybe just wanted to point out on if it were not to be, then this overall massing would still be the same. It would just be a carve out basically underneath, which was architecturally worse and didn't actually provide for anything visually. So I think part of the Single Family Design Board's discussion and their approval or nice comments towards this design was that it was a good architecturally beautiful design, and it fit the 800 square foot ADU above, which, as you can see from the plans, is fairly is quite modest in terms of a small 2-bedroom ADU, so much less, and you're down to a 1-bedroom. So in terms of housing and population, allowing for a little bit more, so in a very sort of concise manner. So it wasn't trying to be big or grab lots of space. It was just trying to be a nice compact design, and hence the need for a little more square footage on the ground floor. So.
Right, and the siding just really makes sense. There's also an adjacent large oak tree that we want to
Oh, yeah.
protect.
And
Just for context.
if there, let's see, maybe just get a site plan. Yeah, so you can see here, we're scooting, here's the big oak tree here in the back of the lot, right in the corner, and or in the back middle of the whole lot. And we're pulling away from it, but still wanting to set back from the street a little bit because we want it to be diminutive compared to the larger main house, so we didn't want it to try to take over visually. So we kind of kept the roof low, the wall heights low, everything kind of low, and sort of toned down, and then just keeping away from the oak tree. So it kind of was the only spot on the site to really to not impact all the other things. So can we catch everything? Okay. All right.
Great, thank you so much. Just a couple questions around the parking lot that's adjacent to it with 17 parking spaces. I did see that the area was going to be hydromulch, but I just wanted to get sort of clarification from all of you on what that looked like and make sure that that was going to be addressed, prior to occupancy.
Right. There's been quite a bit of strategy with the applicant team and the owners about the lot split, and I think that's still on the table in the future. It was taking a really long time to get through this process and through our completeness review, and I think ultimately parcel 2, that area will be developed. We just can't have an existing parking lot remain for a use that's going away for the church use. So it's really, a temporary placeholder until such time they move forward with this project, they get the residents, completed. Whether or not they move forward with the lot split, they develop that, it's just really a placeholder to provide a vacant lot that's available.
Great, thank you so much, Ms. Jones, for that clarification. Let's see. Well, I think honestly that you have answered my questions for this project. We did receive a public comment around the use of the workshop and the size of development and sort of what the intention was for using parcel 2. So, that clarification has been provided. I think, understanding that a workshop is an allowable use in the residential zone and is of a size that is not extremely large. It's under 200 square feet. It's, adjacent to the garage. It allows the property owner to park in their garage on their property rather than use street parking, which in that area is limited, and then allows for a separate space to be able to have that kind of use. So that is an allowable use on residential property in general. So I did just want to address that for the member of the public that had concerns there. Let's see. It looked like as was mentioned, it was reviewed by the Single Family Design Board in both 2024 and 2025, receiving favorable comments. I can certainly understand why. The design is beautiful, and I'm very familiar with the site. I went on a site visit, but I passed that property, very regularly. And it's one that I think could use really some change and would fit quite nicely with the residential development adjacent to it with this new proposal. So, it's really a thoughtful project in the sense that it is using an existing structure, it's using adaptive reuse for the existing structure, and then it's adding another residential structure, an ADU, along with the garage and workshop, which is something that is allowed in a residential zone. I recognize that that project is a little bit larger than what is typically allowed, and so that's why you're here before me today, is for that modification. But again, we're talking it's not that much in terms of square footage. An 800 square foot ADU is a perfectly acceptable size. Same with a garage. To have a 2-car garage is a pretty standard allowance in this residential area. And as I was on the site visit, just really looking around and understanding the area, the immediate properties adjacent, there are some large structures right immediately in the area. It's close to Cottage Hospital. It's close to some of the those larger office buildings not too far away, and then some larger apartment buildings and residential structures. So I do think this is in line with the residential zone. I will open it up at this time for public comment. Anybody in the room that would wish to speak on 2310 Chapala Street? I don't see anybody in the room for this item. Ms. Gu, is there anybody online?
Upon checking Zoom, I do not see any raised hands for this particular item.
Okay, great. So with that, I will go ahead and close the public comment, and I'm going to make the staff findings in the staff report for 2310 Chapala Street, and we'll be approving this project. But I will go ahead and just reference the staff report findings for the public. So the first finding is under environmental review. The project qualifies for an exemption from further environmental review under section 15303 of CEQA, which allows for construction of accessory dwelling units and accessory structures in a residential zone. And then accessory building floor area modification is the second finding, and it's to allow the lot to exceed the total maximum square footage for a single detached accessory building. It's an appropriate improvement because the garage and workshop are appropriately sized along with the ADU above. And the ADU is an allowable use by right in the residential area. So this consolidation of square footage into a single detached accessory structure rather than having multiple separate detached structures on the site, I think will work really nicely with the overall property and the adjacent residential properties in the area. The mass, bulk, and scale is appropriate and compatible. Recognizing that this is a church that's been converted and there's a lot of surrounding residential neighborhood, there's a lot of larger development in the surrounding residential neighborhood. The style, even though design review's not under me, certainly it's aesthetically compatible with other examples of Spanish colonial revival style. It's going to be a great addition for the neighborhood. So thank you for being here today, and I hope that the applicant can have a smoother process as they get through their building permit and get into construction. With that, I'm going to announce, and give me one moment if there's anybody online that is watching. I'm going to just bring up the slide that discusses the appeal process if you would like to appeal the project. So a decision for this project is appealable to the Planning Commission. My decision is to approve the project at 2310 Chapala Street. Also, a member of the Planning Commission may suspend my decision within 10 calendar days. If a member of the public wishes to appeal this project to the Planning Commission, they have 10 calendar days from the date of my decision, which is today, September 17th, 2025. And then after that, the decision is final if we don't receive any appeals. And so with that, the Staff Hearing Officer meeting for September 17th is adjourned. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.